This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. Hey, hope you're well. This is my house. This is my living room, hallway, office, my garden. And this used to be our kitchen. Yeah, me and Mrs. 10 Minutes, we've got the builders in. So that was almost a year ago. And now this is our kitchen. So the builders are long gone. They actually moved on to the next job in October of last year, just 19 weeks, yeah, less than 5 months after this build started. Now, you don't go from a building site to something like this in less than 5 months without being super organized, getting some great people involved, and yeah, spending a decent chunk of money. Fortunately, Mrs. 10 Minutes is extremely organized, and we found some great folks to help out. And as for the money, well, this was never going to be a DIY project. I'm too old for that, and we wanted the project completed promptly. If you're into your DIY house bashing and looking for inspiration or entertainment, then there are some great channels doing great things out there. But me and Mrs. 10 Minutes, we're both well into our 60s. We don't have the time or the energy, frankly, to deal with a big multi-year DIY project. Of course, we could have had a pretty nice replacement kitchen with none of the fuss and bother of pulling the house apart for a fraction of the cost of this build, but that wasn't the point. It's more than just a kitchen replacement. It's about bringing the house up to spec for us for the next 10 to 15 years, the next phase of our lives, if you like. Now, as I said, it's been almost exactly a year since I first started posting videos about this and since the building work started. And these videos are going to be coming through roughly on the same kind of timeline, just a year displaced, a year later on. I'm not going to be doing a big build video every week, apart from anything else. Like with any big project, there were weeks where nothing much seemed to actually happen at all. The build was generally pretty good, but we did make some mistakes along the way, and I'll fess up to those as we get to them. And we also uncovered a few things that ended up costing us a little bit more money. We got some damp issues, which we decided it was better to resolve now rather than later, which is what all this damp-proof render is. It's been done all the way along, basically, all on this party wall. But if you're going to do it, now's the time. So in the introduction video last year, I went through what it was we had planned, and I'd recommend taking a look at that if you want the full details. But as a very quick refresher, we did what's known as a side return, an extension to the kitchen, literally taking away the back corner of the house, propping everything up on sticks so that it didn't fall down before adding in some big steels for permanent support, and then moving the walls sideways a metre to the boundary and back 3 meters into the garden. In fact, if you caught my back garden workbench build, I was stood round about here when I was actually making it. We also refurbished the whole of the ground floor, creating a new utility room and a downstairs toilet as well. And we also replaced the first floor bathroom. As you'll see, that room was going to be chopped about anyway as a consequence of the work that we were doing. So it seemed like a good idea, a good opportunity to get that dealt with at the same time. So no bathroom, no kitchen, no gas, no sewers for the best part of 5 months. Yeah, we also decided to move out, and luckily we were able to find a rental property quite close by. And on May the 31st, 2023, we moved house for the first time in over 30 years. Yeah, May 31st, that was the day that my festival table saw arrived. You cannot begin to imagine how popular I was when I had to pop back to the workshop in the middle of the move for a couple of hours just to take delivery of that. No time to settle into the new place though, as literally the next day, 1st of June, we were back here for the initial site meeting between ourselves, the builders and architects, ahead of the work starting the following Monday, June the 5th, 2023. Hang on a minute, builders and architects, where did they come from? Yeah, let's back up, because this process actually started way before then, more than 2 years ago, back in January 2022. Yeah, I said Mrs. 10M was organised, didn't I? And helping us stay organised in the kitchen, well, let me tell you about today's video sponsor. That's HelloFresh. Now, me and Mrs. 10 Minutes love spending time in this space, especially now it's finished. And of course, we cook our own recipes a lot. But as we both lead pretty busy lives, we really appreciate how HelloFresh takes care of us for a few nights a week with a box of goodness full of fresh ingredients and with a foolproof recipe card for each meal that even I can follow. It has pictures. See, if you're new to HelloFresh, then the process couldn't be easier. You just visit HelloFresh Co.uk or download the app, sign up and choose the recipes you want to make, and all the ingredients you need are delivered right to your door. We're giving this vegetarian stir fry a go, and I really like how you get everything that you need for the meal in exactly the right quantities that you require. Not too much and not too little, so there's next to no waste and absolutely no worries about how you'll use the rest of that jar or packet of whatever it was. Almost all the packaging is recyclable too, and the meal boxes work out way cheaper than eating out and are a much healthier option than takeaways. Whether you're after a recipe that's quick and easy, low in calories, fully vegetarian, or like this one, a combination of all three, then HelloFresh will have you covered. And with over 100 recipes a month, the menus are varied, so there's always something new to try. Go to HelloFresh Co.uk and use the offer code WORKSHOP60 to get 60% off your first box with HelloFresh and 20% off the next 2 months. And free desserts for life. Yeah, you heard that right, not 3, free desserts for life. Link and code are in the description, and thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. So when you consider any kind of building work, one of the first things that you need to know is what it's going to cost, roughly, as you need to make sure that you've got the finances in place to complete the build, along with a contingency fund for unexpected expenses. I'm sure we've all seen enough of those grand DIY disaster SOS design TV shows to know that nothing ever truly goes to plan. Appear to be missing a pane of glass. There are websites that can give you a pretty good idea of building costs per square meter based on your location and the type of building firm that you're dealing with. But as it happens, the 10-minute sister-in-law had something similar done not so long back, and that gave us a fairly realistic idea of what we might expect to pay, though at that time material costs were going particularly crazy. So I thought it was worth having a chat with a one-man band building contractor that I knew from back when I was on the tools myself. Let me give you the takeaway from that conversation. Great to see you again. No plans, no quote. With building work, there are so many variables, especially the volatility of material costs, that can affect the final pricing. And that's something to seriously bear in mind if you do check out those how much does building work cost websites. Bear in mind as well that those quotes will only be for the build. You want doors and windows with that? Yeah, they'll be extra. So if you need plans, you probably need someone who can produce not just a nice set of drawings, not just someone with knowledge and experience of the process, but also someone who can advise on the nuances of your local authority's specific requirements. You need an architect, and fortunately I know a guy, or two. Duo Design and Architecture are a two-man practice with offices in the same building as my workshop, very local, and they agreed to take on our build in January 2022. Now, larger building projects are long processes involving many different people, and I'm not going to go into too many details in these videos because it's fairly dry technical stuff that's well documented elsewhere, but I'll add some links in the description. If you are considering a large build of your own here in Britain, or if you're just interested in the process that we went through, then I'll be putting together a kind of critical path through the journey, if you like, with a little help from our architects and our builders. If that's of interest, then the best thing to do right now is to sign up to the free mailing list using the link in the description, and that'll put you into a specific segment to register your interest in that process as it all comes along. So back to our architects, and it was March 2022 before we had an initial site visit and measure up, and April when we received the initial drawings and variations. By June, we had the drawings finalised and the planning application submitted. The application was validated in July and approved in September 2022. That's 6 months after the initial site visit. So again, just something to bear in mind if you are considering this kind of build. Between then and the first meeting with the builders in February 23, we needed to get technical drawings from the architects. The drawings made for the planning approval don't have the required level of detail, and we needed to get party wall agreements in place. This is an essential part of the process here in Britain that's for your protection as well as your neighbours, and it applies to any wall within 3 meters of a boundary. So again, something else to bear in mind. There are links in the description to all this stuff. Technical design also meant consultation with a structural engineer, and by the time we had our builders' initial meeting in February, we pretty much had everything lined up. We discussed initial costings with the builders in March, and then we gave them the go-ahead with the initial start date of Monday, June the 5th, which is kind of how we got to here. The first week of the build was all about stripping out the existing kitchen carefully, as we wanted to reuse the cabinetry in our newly created utility room. That turned out to be a bit of a false economy, to be perfectly honest. Yes, we had a rosy glow from not sending a 20-year-old kitchen to landfill, but we'd have ended up with a much better result and a much more straightforward install for a very modest sum of money in the context of the overall build if we'd have just gone ahead and bought the utility cabinetry new. But that's us more or less current on this timeline, so I'll call this one done for this week. Thanks so much for taking a look. Be sure to join me in the next of the Our Big Build videos, when there'll be a little bit more action as we start pulling things apart, digging some holes, and yes, filling them in as well. I'll see you then. Take care.